Welcome back, Grade 6, to Nelson Math, Chapter 11, Section 7, Different Views of a Cube Structure. This is the cube structure that we begin with, and when we have our different views, those different views are visible down here. I have built this exact same cube structure so you can see what it looks like in real life. For this section, I'm going to strongly encourage everyone, instead of just looking at diagrams, to please go ahead and make the cube structure, as that allows you to view it in reality so you can tell the differences in depth. So right here, where we start with this one, we have four different views. We have a front view, a top view, a right view, and a left view. If we look at this front view, this is labeled right here. So our front view is made up of three layers, a layer of three, a layer of three, and a layer of one. And we see that right here, a layer of three, a layer of three, and a layer of one. And it also is visible in this one that I made with cubes, layer of three, layer of three, layer of one. It's important to realize that when we see these views, we are only seeing the square. We're not seeing the cube. So to point out what I mean by that, this square right here is just one face of this cube. One face of the cube is just one square right there. That's just a square. So if I say square, I'm talking about one face of the cube. If I say a cube, I'm talking about the three-dimensional structures made up of the faces made of squares. So this one right here, the front view we've talked about, this labeled top view, we're looking at it from above. So it's if we're standing above this structure and looking directly down, so we only see the squares on the cubes from the top. This very dark solid line, this is showing a change in depth. And you can clearly see the change in depth when you look at it in the 3D diagram here, or in the actual cube structure that I made and the ones that you will be able to make with the cubes. You can tell that these two squares, this square and this square, not the cube, just the square, this square and this square correspond to this square and this square because this cube is above this layer right here. So this layer, and we can only see this middle layer on this side right here because there is a change in depth. From the top view, we cannot see this cube and the cube behind it. We cannot see it because it's a change in depth. So we can see these four squares, which correspond to these four cubes and the four squares on top. These two squares correspond to these two cubes and these two squares on top. Now from the right, that means we're looking at it standing right here. We're standing here. So we can only see 1, 2, 3, 4 squares from here and these two top squares right there from the top cubes. And from here you can tell the right view. This line indicates, this solid black line indicates a change in depth. So we know that these two cubes are at a different depth than these four cubes. I'm also going to point out that all four of these cubes must be at the same depth because the lines are the thinner lines, not the thick lines. And this corresponds standing right here and looking this way. So standing right here and looking this way. These four squares that we see here are these four squares right here. And these two squares here are these two squares here. Lastly is the left view. The left view is not labeled, but it's right here because this is front and this is right. This is the only side that could be a left view. So that would be standing right here, looking in this direction right there. So these 6 cubes, we could only see 4 of them right now, but these 6 cubes correspond to these 6 cubes right here, which correspond to these 6 squares, or the faces of the cube, right here. This tells us all 6 cubes are at the same depth, the same level. So that's how we can make these cube structures from just these views, and how we can draw these views from just this cube structure, or this cube structure. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.